8th graders, we are about to make your slab constructed mugs. This will be a pretty simple process. To make the mug, it's only 3 steps. We're going to make a base, and to do that part, you'll need to select whether you want one of these smaller lids or slightly larger lids to trace. The sides will be constructed out of a rectangle. You have the option of 3 different sizes here. You have a 4-inch height for your walls, which I have this professionally constructed mug here. 4 inches is pretty close to a standard sized mug. But if you want a slightly taller mug, so you can enjoy a little bit more hot chocolate or coffee, you can go with the 5-inch height. You see the comparison there. Or you can go with 6 inches. We can't go taller than 6 inches based on the shelf height that is in our kiln. So you'll select one of those, and basically out of clay, if this is your base, those walls are going to get wrapped around that base like this. And then we'll also construct a handle. And there's a few options for your handle. You could do a coil, or you can do another slab, or if you want to sculpt something a little bit more free-form for the handle, that's your choice. All right, we're going to start off with the base. I'm going to get my clay out from inside my bag, because whenever I'm not using my chunk of clay, I always have it protected under a wet paper towel. And I also try to put it in the plastic too, that way it doesn't dry out. I'm going to start with just a nice handful of clay here. Again, I'm going to take the rest of my clay, protect it in the plastic. And to get started, all I want to do is just kind of gently press the clay with my hands. Already you can see we don't have a whole lot of work we have to do with the base. To make sure it's a nice, even slab, get this out of the way, I'm going to use these little guide strips. And when I have them next to my clay, as I'm rolling with the rolling pin, it will force the clay to stay a consistent thickness. So it won't get any thinner than these wooden strips. When you have these wooden strips laying down, you want to make sure that the wide part of it is the one that's facing you. The thin part is going to be the thickness of your clay. All right, so I've got my base there. And I'm going to move this out of the way. I am going to use this lid to trace. Aha! Barely big enough. Perfect. And to cut this out, I can use any tool that I have on my table. I could use like a paper clip. If you have any of these little wooden tools that have a nice sort of blade type edge, that works too. And I'm just going to not press, but hold the lid into place so it doesn't move around on me. And just kind of like you did when you were playing with Play-Doh as a kid, I'm going to cut the excess off. Move that out of the way. Make sure I get all those extras off the edge. Carefully peel this away from the lid. And that is my base. We can gently roll the edges here to help get rid of some of that unevenness, but it won't really matter in the next step. So there's your base. All right, for the next step, to make the sides of our mug, we're going to make a really big rectangle. I'm going to go for this medium size. It's not the shortest, not the tallest, but just right in the middle, Goldilocks. Number 5 rectangle. And to get started, I'm going to use all the rest of my clay, and I'm going to start squishing it out by hand. So that way I can get some some length to it. It's going to look like one of those long donuts. And for the walls, we're actually going to start by using these guides, but then we're going to move them out of the way and roll it a little bit thinner. It'll help us to keep it sort of even, but we do need the walls a little bit thinner because that's kind of a thick edge for a mug. If you were to try to drink out of a mug that was that thick, it would be kind of challenging. So like I said, we'll just use it to kind of get started, and then we're going to move them out of the way and keep rolling from there. All right, that's probably good enough to go ahead and get started. Notice how when I'm using the rolling pin, I'm not keeping my hands on the handles. Some of your rolling pins probably don't even have handles. It's kind of best to use it like it's just a really large dowel rod and roll it up and down these guides. I also like to flip it over to make sure I sort of get the same consistency all over. All right, and I'm getting to the point where I can't really roll out any more with the guides, so I'm going to move these out of the way. And then I'm going to gently try to keep that same evenness. Now, you'll notice I've got a pretty decent length at this point, but I really need to work on the width. So I'm going to move this guy sideways like this and carefully roll up and down this way as well. Now it's really delicate, so make sure you're being very careful every time that you go to move it. See how I'm doing here? Oh, so close. Now, if I can just work these couple extra areas, I think I can get it to fit. Perfecto. All right, so at this point, take something that you can cut through the clay with. I'll use a paper clip this time. And I'm just going to try to hold that paper clip or whatever you're using so it is totally perpendicular, so you're not cutting at an angle. Make sure not to move the template until you've cut all 4 edges. Move that, and I realized that I got a little off there, but I'm not really worried about it because these are all a little bit longer than you need them to be for our next step. So that little part on the edge, I'm not too worried about. So if you have any oopsies right towards the last inch or so, do not fret. All right, I'm going to ball all that extra clay back up, put it back under my bag.